Discussion on verses 1 to 3 of 3. This brief yet profoundly powerful chapter opens by drawing attention to one of the greatest and most subtle blessings granted to humanity, time itself. Chapter 103 Al-Asr, verses 1 to 2.
By time. Indeed, mankind is in loss.
The opening oath, by time, carries multiple layers of meaning. It may refer to the passage of time in general, which steadily carries every person towards their final destination. It may also refer to specific periods of time, such as the different stages of a person's life from youth to old age, each of which offers unique opportunities that, once lost, can never be recovered. Some scholars have also interpreted it as a reference to particular significant moments, such as the final era of humanity, or even specific times of the day, emphasizing that every portion of time is filled with potential for gain or loss. In all these interpretations, the central message remains the same. Time is a precious and irreplaceable resource, and its misuse inevitably leads to loss. Unlike other worldly possessions, everything else can be regained, replaced, or even acquired unlawfully, except time. Once a moment passes, it is gone forever and can never be reclaimed. Despite this undeniable reality, which is recognized by people of all backgrounds, many fail to truly value their time. A common mindset is the assumption that there will always be a tomorrow, in which one will begin preparing for the hereafter. Yet, as days turn into weeks and years, this tomorrow continues to be postponed, until eventually a person reaches the end of their life without ever having fulfilled that intention. In many cases, people only recognize the true value of time when they are confronted with death, at which point regret replaces opportunity. Even those who attempt to change later in life may find themselves at a disadvantage. When individuals spend the majority of their years immersed in worldly pursuits, their habits, priorities, and attachments become deeply rooted. As a result, even if they begin to engage in acts of worship in old age, their hearts and thoughts may remain preoccupied with worldly concerns. This creates a disconnect between outward actions and inward focus. It becomes evident that true preparation for the hereafter is not merely about late efforts, but about consistent and sincere use of time throughout one's life. Another important dimension of this discussion is that, as time progresses, a person's responsibilities typically increase rather than decrease. Commitments such as marriage, family, and social obligations demand greater attention and energy. Therefore, delaying spiritual preparation under the assumption that one will have more free time later is not only unrealistic but also short-sighted. Life rarely becomes less demanding, rather it becomes more complex. This highlights the importance of integrating spiritual growth into one's daily routine from the very beginning, rather than postponing it. Islam does not call for abandoning the material world. Instead, it teaches balance and purpose. A person is encouraged to use their time wisely by fulfilling their necessary responsibilities, such as earning a livelihood and caring for family, without falling into excess, extravagance, or heedlessness. Beyond these necessities, they should dedicate their remaining time and energy towards actions that benefit them in both this world and the hereafter. This includes avoiding sinful activities and minimizing engagement in vain pursuits that offer no lasting value. Time spent on such matters will eventually become a source of regret, as it neither contributes to worldly stability nor eternal success. A deeper reflection on this chapter also suggests that loss is not limited to outright failure, but includes wasting potential. Every person is given a limited span of time filled with opportunities to grow, improve, and prepare for what lies ahead. Failing to utilize this opportunity, even if one avoids major wrongdoing, still constitutes a form of loss. True success, therefore, lies in maximizing the benefit of every moment by aligning one's actions with divine guidance. The individual who learns to value and utilize their time correctly will naturally begin to organize the rest of their life in a meaningful way. Their use of time will influence how they use their wealth, energy, and abilities. This alignment ensures that they live with purpose, maintain a balanced mental and physical state, and correctly prioritize every relationship and responsibility in their life. Most importantly, it enables them to prepare adequately for their accountability on the day of judgment. Such a person attains a sense of clarity, stability, and inner peace, as their life is no longer driven by distraction or regret, but by purpose and direction. In this way, the proper use of time becomes the foundation for achieving peace of mind in both worlds, transforming every passing moment from a source of loss into an opportunity for lasting success. Chapter 103 Al-Asr, verse 3.
Except for those who have believed and done righteous deeds.
As Islam presents a complete and comprehensive way of life, it addresses every dimension of human experience, including the unavoidable reality of social interaction. Human beings are inherently social, and no person lives in isolation. Because of this, companionship becomes a central factor in shaping a person's beliefs, behavior, and overall direction in life. Islamic teachings therefore provide clear guidance on the importance of choosing companions wisely, as this choice has far-reaching consequences. In essence, companionship itself can be viewed as a form of guidance. The people one associates with inevitably influence their thoughts, habits, and character. This influence may occur quickly through direct imitation, or it may develop gradually and subtly over time, but it is always powerful and transformative. For this reason, companionship is never neutral. It either elevates a person or draws them away from what is right. This reality was clearly highlighted by the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, in a hadith found in Sunan Abu Dawood, number 4833, where the effect of companionship is illustrated through a vivid example. A person who spends time in a place of fragrance leaves with a pleasant scent, while one who spends time in a place of smoke carries its unpleasant traces. In the same way, a person absorbs the qualities of those they keep close company with, whether those qualities are good or harmful. One possible understanding of this teaching is that companionship directly shapes a person's outward actions. When an individual surrounds themselves with people who are mindful of Allah, the Exalted, and committed to righteous conduct, they are naturally encouraged to adopt similar behaviors. Such companions serve as constant reminders of one's purpose, encouraging sincerity, discipline, and the correct use of the blessings one has been granted. Through this environment, a person gradually develops balance in their life, mentally, physically, and spiritually, while preparing for their accountability on the Day of Judgment. Another possible meaning is that companionship influences not only actions, but also the inner state of a person. The heart is highly receptive to its surroundings. Being in the company of the sincere nurtures humility, gratitude, and awareness of Allah, the Exalted. It softens the heart, refines intentions, and strengthens faith. In contrast, keeping the company of those who are heedless or misguided hardens the heart, weakens spiritual awareness, and distances a person from their true purpose, even if they do not immediately realize it. A further dimension is that companionship shapes a person's perception of right and wrong. When surrounded by righteous individuals, good actions are normalized and encouraged, while harmful behaviors are discouraged. However, when a person is immersed in an environment where wrongdoing is common, those actions begin to appear acceptable or even desirable. Over time, this distorts one's judgment, leading them to justify misusing their blessings and neglecting their responsibilities. Additionally, companionship can influence a person's long-term direction and ultimate outcome. Those who consistently associate with people driven by worldly desires may gradually adopt the same mindset, prioritizing temporary pleasures over lasting success. This often results in misplacing priorities, damaging relationships, and losing balance in life. On the other hand, those who choose companions focused on truth and accountability are more likely to remain steadfast, organized, and purposeful in their journey. The consequences of poor companionship extend far beyond surface-level behavior. When a person replaces the obedience of Allah, the Exalted, with the pursuit of fleeting desires encouraged by misguided companions, their heart becomes unsettled. Even if they achieve outward success, they often experience inner dissatisfaction, anxiety, and restlessness. Their relationships may weaken, their sense of direction may fade, and their life may become increasingly disordered. This demonstrates that material comfort alone cannot compensate for spiritual neglect. In contrast, righteous companionship cultivates inner peace and stability. It strengthens faith, reinforces good character, and helps a person remain consistent in using their blessings correctly. Such an environment provides encouragement during times of difficulty, and prevents one from drifting into heedlessness. It also fosters a sense of accountability, ensuring that a person remains mindful of their ultimate return to Allah, the Exalted. Ultimately, companionship is a decisive factor in shaping both one's worldly life and their hereafter. A wise person, therefore, does not choose friends based solely on convenience or shared interests, but carefully selects those whose presence brings them closer to what is right. By surrounding themselves with individuals who remind them of Allah, the Exalted, and inspire them towards sincerity and obedience, they safeguard their heart, refine their character, and place themselves on a path that leads to success and peace in both worlds. Chapter 103 Al-Asr, verses 2-3.
Indeed, mankind is in loss, except for those who have believed and done righteous deeds, and advised each other to truth and advised each other to patience.
In both situations, advising others is most effective when it is supported by personal example. True guidance is not established merely through words, but through consistent action. Leading by example means that a person first strives to learn and implement the teachings of Islam in their own life. When others witness sincerity, discipline, and integrity in both speech and behavior, they naturally recognize the truth and beauty of these teachings. In this way, actions become a form of silent instruction that often carries more weight than verbal advice. One important understanding is that people are far more influenced by what they observe than by what they are told. When individuals see someone embodying patience, honesty, humility, and obedience to Allah, the Exalted, they are more likely to be inspired to follow that path. In contrast, if advice is given without corresponding action, it loses credibility and impact. Therefore, leading by example is not simply recommended, it is essential for meaningful guidance. This principle is especially important when it comes to teaching the next generation. Parents and elders hold the primary responsibility of nurturing faith within their children. It is through their example that young people first encounter the practical application of Islamic teachings. When children grow up observing these teachings lived out sincerely, they develop a deep-rooted understanding that Islam is not merely a set of rituals, but a complete and purposeful way of life. Another key aspect is that faith must be built upon understanding and evidence, not blind imitation. Simply instructing children to follow certain practices without explaining their purpose or wisdom often leads to a fragile connection with their faith. As they grow older and are exposed to different ideas and influences, this superficial understanding may cause them to drift away, viewing religion as a cultural habit rather than a meaningful and necessary way of life. For this reason, it is not sufficient to limit religious education to basic recitation or to delegate it entirely to others. While attending places of learning has its benefits, it cannot replace the role of parents in actively teaching and nurturing faith. Children need to understand the meanings, wisdoms, and evidences behind what they are taught. They must be guided to reflect, ask questions, and develop certainty in their beliefs. This process equips them with the ability to remain firm, even when faced with challenges or doubts later in life. Sadly, it is often observed that great emphasis is placed on worldly education, while religious education is treated as secondary. Although striving for worldly knowledge and success is commendable, neglecting spiritual development creates an imbalance. A person may achieve success in this world, yet lack direction, purpose, and inner stability. True success lies in combining both, ensuring that worldly pursuits are guided by sound principles and a clear understanding of one's purpose. Another important perspective is that when faith is grounded in evidence and understanding, it transforms how a person views life. They begin to see every blessing, whether time, wealth, or ability, as something to be used responsibly and purposefully. Islam then becomes a guiding framework for every decision, rather than a limited set of occasional practices. This comprehensive understanding fosters consistency, resilience, and clarity. Ultimately, this entire process begins with the example set by elders. When parents themselves are committed to learning and acting upon Islamic teachings, they create an environment where faith is lived, not just taught. Their actions reinforce their words, making their guidance more authentic and impactful. In contrast, if they neglect their own development, they will struggle to instill strong faith in others. Therefore, the most effective way to guide the next generation is through a combination of knowledge, action, and sincere effort. By leading through example and teaching with understanding, parents and elders ensure that those under their care develop a firm, evidence-based connection to Islam, one that remains steady throughout their lives and enables them to navigate both this world and the next with clarity, balance, and purpose. Chapter 103 Al-Asr, verse 3.
And advised each other to truth.
In a hadith found in Jami at Tirmidhi, number 1971, the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, emphasized the importance of truthfulness and warned against falsehood. The hadith explains that truthfulness leads a person toward righteousness, and righteousness ultimately leads to paradise. When a person consistently adopts truthfulness in their life, they are recorded by Allah, the Exalted, as a truthful person. This highlights that truthfulness is not merely a single action, but a consistent state that shapes one's character and final outcome. A deeper reflection shows that truthfulness is not limited to speech alone. Rather, it operates on multiple levels, each reinforcing the other. These levels together form a complete and sincere way of living. The first level is truthfulness in intention and sincerity. This means that a person performs all actions solely for the sake of Allah, the Exalted, without seeking recognition, praise, or any worldly gain. Their motivation remains pure, even when no one is watching or acknowledging their efforts. This level forms the very foundation of faith, as every action is judged according to intention. This is confirmed in a hadith found in Sahih Bukhari, number 1. A clear sign of such sincerity is that a person neither expects nor desires appreciation from others, as their focus remains entirely on pleasing Allah, the Exalted. This level also protects a person from hidden forms of insincerity, such as performing good deeds for reputation or status. Another way to understand this level is that it aligns the inner state of a person with their outward actions. When intention is truthful, the heart and actions move in harmony, creating consistency and integrity within a person's character. Without this foundation, even outwardly good actions lose their value. The second level is truthfulness in speech. This goes beyond simply avoiding lies. It requires a person to avoid all forms of harmful or sinful speech. A person who engages in gossip, backbiting, slander, or unnecessary arguments cannot be considered truly truthful, even if they avoid direct lies. True truthfulness in speech means that one's words are consistently beneficial, honest, and appropriate. An effective way to develop this level is by acting upon the hadith found in Jami at Tirmidhi, number 2317, which teaches that a person perfects their way of life by avoiding matters that do not concern them. Much of harmful speech arises when people involve themselves in unnecessary discussions. By limiting speech to what is beneficial, a person protects themselves from many sins. This also includes avoiding idle or pointless speech. While such speech may not always be sinful, it often leads to harmful words and wastes valuable time. On the Day of Judgment, a person may regret the time spent on matters that carried no benefit. Therefore, a simple yet powerful principle is to speak what is good or remain silent. This approach safeguards both one's character and their record of deeds. The third level is truthfulness in actions. This is achieved when a person's behavior reflects their beliefs and words. It involves sincerely obeying Allah, the Exalted, by fulfilling His commands, avoiding His prohibitions, and remaining patient with destiny according to the traditions of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him. This level requires consistency, meaning a person does not selectively follow teachings based on personal desires, nor do they distort or reinterpret them for convenience. Another dimension of this level is that a person adheres to the proper order and priority of actions as established by Allah, the Exalted. They give importance to what is most important, and do not neglect obligations for lesser matters. Through this, they ensure that every blessing they possess, whether time, wealth, or ability, is used in a way that is pleasing to Allah, the Exalted. Together, these three levels, intention, speech, and action, form a complete model of truthfulness. When they are aligned, a person becomes internally and externally consistent, embodying sincerity in every aspect of life. In contrast, the opposite of truthfulness, falsehood, also exists on these same levels and carries severe consequences. According to the hadith under discussion, falsehood leads to disobedience, and disobedience ultimately leads to the fire of hell. When a person persists in falsehood, they are recorded by Allah the Exalted as a great liar. Lying in intention occurs when a person performs good deeds for the sake of others, rather than for Allah the Exalted. This form of insincerity corrupts the very foundation of one's actions. Lying in speech includes all forms of sinful or harmful words, not just direct false statements. Lying in actions refers to behaving in a way that contradicts one's professed beliefs, such as persistently engaging in disobedience and violating the rights of Allah, the Exalted, and people. A person who combines these forms of falsehood develops a deeply rooted pattern of insincerity and wrongdoing. Such a state is extremely dangerous, as it affects both their worldly life and their outcome in the hereafter. It becomes clear that truthfulness is not a minor virtue, but a central principle that determines a person's path. Ultimately, the one who strives to be truthful in intention, speech, and action builds a life of sincerity, balance, and integrity. This leads them toward righteousness and, eventually, to paradise. Whereas the one who neglects these levels falls into confusion, inconsistency, and loss, both in this world and in the next. Chapter 103 Al-Asr, verse 3.
And advised each other to truth.
The truth referred to in this verse can be understood as the divine guidance given through Islamic teachings, namely, the Holy Quran and the traditions of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him. This truth is not merely a set of beliefs, but a complete and practical way of life designed to guide human beings in every circumstance. One important way of appreciating this truth is by reflecting on the clear distinction between divine guidance and man-made systems of conduct, and encouraging others to do the same. No matter how advanced a society becomes, and regardless of how much knowledge people acquire in areas such as psychology, biology, or human behavior, it remains beyond human ability to produce a flawless code of conduct. Human knowledge is always developing and incomplete. People continue to discover new aspects of the human mind and body, and even then, their understanding remains limited and subject to error. As a result, any system devised by human beings will inevitably contain shortcomings, inconsistencies, or gaps, especially when applied across different situations, cultures, and periods of time. Another way to understand this limitation is that human judgment is influenced by personal experience, cultural background, and changing social trends. What is considered acceptable or beneficial in one era may later be recognized as harmful. This constant change demonstrates that human beings lack the comprehensive and timeless knowledge required to establish a perfect system that ensures lasting peace, justice, and balance for all. In contrast, Allah the Exalted is the creator of human beings and fully knows their nature, needs, strengths, and weaknesses. His knowledge is complete and not restricted by time, place, or circumstance. It encompasses the past, present, and future, as well as every hidden and apparent aspect of creation. Therefore, He alone is capable of providing a code of conduct that perfectly aligns with human nature and addresses every possible situation a person may encounter. Divine guidance, as presented in the Holy Quran and the traditions of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, establishes clear principles that distinguish right from wrong and beneficial from harmful. It does not merely address isolated issues, but provides a comprehensive framework that brings balance to every aspect of life: spiritual, mental, physical, and social. Through this guidance, a person is able to organize their priorities correctly, fulfill their responsibilities, and achieve a sense of stability and purpose. Another perspective is that divine guidance not only instructs but also nurtures. It is designed in harmony with human nature, meaning that when a person follows it sincerely, they experience a sense of alignment within themselves. This alignment leads to inner peace, clarity, and emotional stability, whereas deviating from it often results in confusion, imbalance, and dissatisfaction, even if outward success is achieved. Historical experience further supports this understanding. Whenever individuals and societies have sincerely implemented divine guidance, they have witnessed the spread of justice, harmony, and social stability. While no society is perfect, the closer people come to applying this guidance, the more they experience its benefits in both individual and collective life. Therefore, it becomes essential for a person to accept and follow this divine code of conduct, even when certain aspects may conflict with personal desires or immediate preferences. Human desires are often short-sighted and driven by temporary satisfaction, whereas divine guidance is based on complete wisdom and long-term benefit. This can be understood through the example of a wise patient and a skilled physician. A patient may not fully understand the reasoning behind a particular treatment, and the prescribed medicine or lifestyle changes may feel restrictive or unpleasant. However, because the physician possesses the necessary knowledge and expertise, the patient trusts that following the advice will ultimately lead to recovery and well-being. In the same way, a person should approach divine guidance with trust and understanding, recognizing that it is given by the one whose knowledge is perfect and whose wisdom is absolute. In conclusion, the truth in this context represents a complete and flawless system of guidance that cannot be matched by human effort. By embracing and acting upon this guidance, a person not only fulfills their purpose but also attains balance, clarity, and peace of mind in both this world and the hereafter. In general, when a person chooses a path that differs from those around them, it can unintentionally highlight the shortcomings in the choices of others. When someone gives priority to obeying Allah, the Exalted, over personal desires, it may cause others, especially those who place their desires first, to feel uneasy about their own decisions. Instead of reflecting on themselves, they may respond with criticism or negativity. This reaction can often come from those closest to a person, including family members, who may view this change as a challenge to their own way of life. Another important factor is the influence of modern society. Social pressures, especially those shaped by social media, fashion trends, and cultural norms, promote a lifestyle centered on desire, status, and outward success. In such an environment, following Islamic teachings is often portrayed as restrictive or outdated. In reality, this perception exists because Islam encourages discipline and sets boundaries, which naturally conflicts with systems that thrive on excess and constant indulgence. These societal influences are powerful and far-reaching. When a person begins to take their faith seriously, they may be seen as resisting the dominant culture. As a result, they may face pressure to conform, which can appear in the form of mockery, discouragement, or attempts to make them feel isolated. In many cases, Islam is presented as an obstacle to achieving wealth or social acceptance, even though the real issue lies in the conflict between self-discipline and unchecked desire. Furthermore, those who strive to live according to Islamic teachings, which promote moderation, responsibility, and control over one's desires, are often criticized by individuals who live without such restraint. A lifestyle driven purely by impulse may appear attractive, but it lacks balance and long-term stability. When such individuals encounter someone who lives with discipline and purpose, it can create discomfort, leading them to criticize or attempt to divert that person from their path. These criticisms are often inconsistent and selective. For example, certain aspects of Islam, such as modest dress, may be singled out and criticized. Yet, similar forms of discipline and dress expectations in professional settings are widely accepted without objection. This inconsistency shows that the issue is not truly about restriction, but rather a resistance to the values of self-control and accountability that Islam promotes. Another way to understand this is that Islam challenges the common belief that freedom means doing whatever one desires. Instead, it teaches that true freedom is achieved by freeing oneself from the control of desires, social pressure, and harmful habits. This idea directly opposes many modern perspectives, which equate freedom with unlimited choice. As a result, those who uphold Islamic values may face opposition simply because they represent a different way of living. However, seeking the approval of others at the cost of obeying Allah, the Exalted, leads to serious consequences. When a person compromises their principles to please people, they begin to misuse the blessings they have been given. This leads to imbalance in their life, mentally and physically. They may appear successful outwardly, but internally they experience confusion, dissatisfaction, and instability. Their priorities become disordered, their relationships strained, and their sense of purpose weakened. More importantly, this behavior prevents them from preparing for their accountability on the Day of Judgment. Temporary approval from people cannot compensate for the lasting consequences of neglecting one's purpose. Even if such a person enjoys moments of comfort, these are overshadowed by the deeper unrest that results from living without proper direction. For this reason, a person must remain firm in their commitment to obeying Allah, the Exalted, regardless of external pressures. True strength lies in remaining consistent, even when faced with criticism or misunderstanding. Chapter 103 Al-Asr, verse 3.
And advised each other to truth, and advised each other to patience.
Patience in this context is not passive. It is an active quality that involves enduring difficulties while remaining firm upon what is right. When combined with truth, it enables a person to maintain integrity and purpose despite challenges. Ultimately, loyalty to Allah, the Exalted, ensures that a person uses every blessing they have been granted in the correct way. This leads to balance in all aspects of life, mental and physical, allowing them to organize their priorities properly, maintain healthy relationships, and prepare effectively for their accountability on the Day of Judgment. As a result, they attain a deep and lasting sense of tranquility that is not dependent on the approval of others or changing circumstances. Whether in times of ease or difficulty, they remain guided and composed, knowing they are following the correct path. This inner stability protects them from negative influences and secures lasting success and peace of mind in both this world and the hereafter. Chapter 103 Al-Asr, verse 3.
And advised each other to patience.
Patience can be understood as a state in which a person refrains from expressing dissatisfaction with their difficulties through their speech or actions, while remaining firm in their sincere obedience to Allah, the Exalted, throughout every trial they face. This obedience is not limited to ritual acts of worship. Rather, it encompasses using every blessing one has been granted in ways that are pleasing to Him, as outlined in the Holy Quran and the traditions of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him. In this way, patience is not passive endurance, but an active commitment to remain upon the correct path regardless of circumstances. The foundation of true patience lies in knowledge. The more a person studies, understands, and acts upon Islamic teachings, the more they come to realize that every decision of Allah, the Exalted, contains wisdom and benefit, even if that wisdom is not immediately apparent. Difficulties are not random or meaningless. They carry hidden purposes that may only become clear over time, or perhaps remain unknown in this world but will be fully revealed in the next. A powerful example of this reality is found in the life of the Holy Prophet Yusuf, peace be upon him. He endured a series of severe hardships: separation from his parents, betrayal by his brothers, abandonment in a well, being sold into slavery, and wrongful imprisonment. Each of these events, though painful in isolation, played a crucial role in shaping his character and preparing him for a greater responsibility, ultimately enabling him to save an entire nation from famine. Without those hardships, he would not have reached that position. This demonstrates that what appears harmful at one stage may, in fact, be the means to a far greater good. Chapter 2 Al-Baqarah, verse 216.
But perhaps you hate a thing and it is good for you, and perhaps you love a thing and it is bad for you. And Allah knows while you know not.
Holding firmly to this belief is an essential part of faith. It is relatively easy for a person to show gratitude and devotion during times of ease, but the true test of faith appears during hardship, when a person continues to obey Allah the Exalted and speaks well of Him despite their circumstances. Another benefit of learning Islamic teachings is that it allows a person to put their own difficulties into perspective. When one reflects on the lives of those who were more beloved to Allah, the Exalted, such as the Holy Prophets, peace be upon them, they will find that these individuals faced far greater trials. This comparison helps a person view their own difficulties as smaller and more manageable. Similarly, observing others in the present who are experiencing more severe hardships can also help reduce one's sense of distress and support the development of patience. Islamic teachings also clarify the reality of destiny. Every event that occurs, whether ease or hardship, has already been decreed and cannot be avoided. Complaining about something that is unavoidable brings no benefit. Instead, it deprives a person of the immense reward that comes with patience. Chapter 39 Az-Zumar, verse 10.
The patient will be given their reward without account, i.e., limit.
This presents a clear choice. A person can face an unavoidable situation with patience and gain immeasurable reward, or face it with impatience and gain nothing. Since the event itself cannot be escaped, it is only logical to approach it in a way that brings benefit in both this world and the hereafter. Chapter 57 Al-Hadid, verses 22 to 23.
No disaster strikes upon the earth or among yourselves except that it is in a register before we bring it into being. Indeed that for Allah is easy. In order that you not despair over what has eluded you.
Through reflection, a person also comes to realize that their desires are not always in their best interest. Many people can recall situations where they longed for something, only for it to become a source of stress and regret. Likewise, things they initially disliked often turned out to be beneficial. Recognizing this pattern helps a person remain calm and patient when faced with situations that do not align with their wishes, as they trust that there is good within them, even if it is hidden. Another important aspect is that difficulties serve to strengthen a person. Just as gold is purified through intense heat, a person's character and mental resilience are refined through trials. Those who are accustomed only to ease often struggle when faced with even minor challenges, whereas those who have endured hardship develop strength, stability, and endurance. Through tests, Allah the Exalted prepares a person to face future challenges with greater ease and composure. Patience is not limited to times of hardship. It is also required during times of ease. When a person is blessed with health, wealth, or success, they must exercise patience by avoiding misuse of these blessings. Without restraint, ease can lead to heedlessness and disobedience, which is why patience is needed in every state. It is also important to understand that patience does not mean becoming inactive or accepting injustice without response. True patience includes taking appropriate action in accordance with Islamic teachings. For example, if a person is being harmed or oppressed, they are allowed, indeed required, to take steps to protect themselves and correct the situation. Acting in this manner does not contradict patience, rather it is part of it. What contradicts patience is disobedience to Allah, the Exalted, through one's reactions. Similarly, expressing natural emotions such as sadness or crying does not oppose patience. Human beings are created with emotions, and expressing them in a lawful manner is part of human nature. The Holy Prophet Yaqub, peace be upon him, wept deeply out of grief. Chapter 12 Yusuf, verse 84.
And he turned away from them and said, O my sorrow over Joseph! And his eyes became white from grief, for he was of that a suppressor.
Likewise, the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, also experienced grief and shed tears during times of loss, such as at the passing of his son, as recorded in Sunan Abu Dawood, number 3126. These examples clearly demonstrate that feeling sorrow and expressing it is not contrary to patience. Rather, what must be avoided is any form of objection, whether through speech or actions, that contradicts obedience to Allah the Exalted. Furthermore, it is important to understand that true patience begins at the very first moment a hardship occurs and must be maintained throughout one's life. This is indicated in a hadith found in Sahih Bukhari, number 1302. Patience that only develops after time has passed is not equivalent to patience at the initial moment of difficulty. Rather, it reflects a natural acceptance that most people gradually come to over time. A person must therefore strive to control their immediate reaction, carefully guarding their speech and actions, and remain steadfast in this state, as any lapse into impatience at any stage may reduce or even nullify the reward. In conclusion, patience is a broad and dynamic quality that encompasses understanding, self-restraint, trust, and consistent obedience. By embodying it in all circumstances, a person not only attains immense reward, but also develops inner strength, stability, and a state of peace of mind in both this world and the hereafter. Chapter 103 Al-Asr, verses 1 to 3.
By time. Indeed mankind is in loss. Except for those who have believed and done righteous deeds, and advised each other to truth, and advised each other to patience.
To maintain a firm and unwavering mindset, a person must actively work to develop strong faith. Such faith is essential for remaining consistent in the obedience of Allah, the Exalted, in every circumstance, whether during times of comfort or periods of hardship. It acts as an anchor, preventing a person from being shaken by changing situations, emotions, or external pressures. This level of faith is not achieved passively. Rather, it is cultivated through learning, reflection, and action. A person strengthens their faith by understanding and implementing the clear guidance found in the Holy Quran and the traditions of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him. These teachings repeatedly demonstrate that sincere obedience to Allah, the Exalted, is not a burden, but a means of attaining stability, clarity, and peace of mind in both this life and the hereafter. Another way to understand strong faith is that it provides a person with certainty. This certainty allows them to recognize that even when divine guidance appears difficult or contrary to personal desires, it ultimately leads to benefit and success. As a result, they are able to remain steadfast, knowing that short-term sacrifice leads to long-term peace and reward. In contrast, the one who remains unaware of Islamic teachings develops weak and fragile faith. Without knowledge and understanding, such a person is easily influenced by their desires and surroundings. Whenever obedience to Allah, the Exalted, conflicts with what they want, they are more likely to choose their desires, as they fail to see the greater wisdom and benefit behind divine commands. Their perspective becomes limited to immediate comfort rather than long-term success. This lack of understanding also prevents them from recognizing an important reality. True peace is not found in fulfilling every desire, but in controlling desires and aligning one's actions with divine guidance. Without this awareness, a person may repeatedly choose what appears pleasing in the moment, only to experience inner unrest, imbalance, and dissatisfaction over time. Therefore, it is essential for a person to actively strengthen their faith by seeking knowledge and putting it into practice. Knowledge alone is not sufficient, unless it is reflected in one's actions. When knowledge and action are combined, they reinforce each other, gradually building a strong and stable faith. Through this process, a person becomes consistent in their obedience to Allah, the Exalted, in all situations. They learn to use the blessings they have been granted, such as time, wealth, and abilities, in ways that are pleasing to Him, as outlined in Islamic teachings. This correct use of blessings brings balance to their life, allowing them to organize their priorities properly and give each responsibility and relationship its rightful place. As a result, they achieve a balanced mental and physical state, along with a sense of clarity and purpose. This balance leads to true peace of mind in both this world and the hereafter, as they live with direction, stability, and a clear understanding of their ultimate goal. Chapter 103 Al-Asr, verses 1-3.
By time. Indeed, mankind is in loss, except for those who have believed and done righteous deeds, and advised each other to truth, and advised each other to patience.
A person's true benefit, both in this world and the hereafter, depends on sincerely accepting and actively practicing the teachings of Islam, even when they conflict with personal desires or inclinations. Their approach should resemble that of a wise and disciplined patient who trusts the guidance of a skilled physician, fully aware that the prescribed treatment, though it may be difficult, bitter, or restrictive, is necessary for maintaining long-term health and well-being. In a similar manner, a person who submits to the guidance of Allah, the Exalted, gains spiritual fulfillment, mental clarity, physical balance, and the ability to properly organize every blessing, responsibility, and relationship in their life. This is because Allah, the Exalted, alone possesses perfect and complete knowledge of human nature and the universe. He knows precisely what is required for an individual to achieve mental, physical, and spiritual equilibrium. Human knowledge, no matter how advanced or refined, is inherently limited. Despite centuries of research in fields such as medicine, psychology, and social science, humans cannot solve every difficulty, prevent all forms of stress, or guarantee stability and order in life. Human judgment is constrained by incomplete experience, limited observation, and personal bias. In contrast, Allah the Exalted has absolute and comprehensive knowledge of all things. Out of His infinite wisdom and mercy, He has provided guidance for a balanced and harmonious life through the Holy Quran and the teachings of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him. Observing those who follow this guidance compared to those who neglect it reveals the contrast. The former live with stability, sound judgment, and harmony in their affairs, while the latter experience confusion, imbalance, and inner unrest. Although a patient may trust a doctor without fully understanding the science behind a prescribed treatment, Allah, the Exalted, does not demand blind adherence. Rather, He invites people to reflect, contemplate, and recognize the truth of His guidance through clear evidence in the world around them. People are called to approach His teachings with insight, sincerity, and fairness, not through blind imitation, prejudice, or inherited assumptions. Chapter 12 Yusuf, verse 108.
Say, this is my way, I invite to Allah with insight, I and those who follow me.
Furthermore, Allah, the Exalted, alone governs the spiritual heart, the true source of peace and tranquility. He alone decides who receives contentment and who does not. Chapter 53 and Najm, verse 43.
And that it is He who makes one laugh and weep.
This demonstrates that genuine peace of mind cannot be attained through worldly achievements, possessions, or indulgence in desires. True tranquility arises only from using the blessings one has been given in accordance with divine guidance. Those who align their lives with the commands of Allah, the Exalted, achieve balance in mind, body, and spirit, maintaining clarity and order in all aspects of their life. Conversely, those who misuse or neglect their blessings fall into disorder, confusion, and distress, no matter how comfortable their outward circumstances may appear. Therefore, authentic serenity, stability, and fulfillment can only be attained by submitting to the wisdom revealed by Allah, the Exalted, and recognizing that His guidance alone leads to balance, success, and lasting peace in both this world and the hereafter. Chapter 16 and Nahl, verse 97.
Whoever does righteousness, whether male or female, while he is a believer, we will surely cause him to live a good life, and we will surely give them their reward in the hereafter according to the best of what they used to do.
All praise is due to Allah, Lord of the worlds, and may peace and blessings be upon His final messenger, Muhammad, his noble family and companions.